Hey, this is Joe at Sound Professionals. Today I'm going to go over the Courtcaster from CEntrance. This device will allow you to record your remote conferences like Zoom or WebEx, Teams, whatever it is. It'll let you record the audio from that. It'll let you speak back to the conference. It'll let you listen with headphones rather than have the audio play out loud. What's unique to the Courtcaster is it'll let you record a backup recording internally to the Courtcaster on an SD card. So we do have a one computer kit that'll let you do all those previous things, but the Courtcaster is unique because it has a digital recorder built in. So first we're going to go over what comes in the box for the Courtcaster, and then we'll look at the extra stuff that comes in the kit if you buy it from Sound Professionals. So first off, you get the box here. It says Courtcaster on it. Company CEntrance, they manufacture the Courtcaster for us. Crack this open, you're going to get a USB-C cable. This is USB-C to USB-C. That's the skinny oval cable. You'll get one of those. You will get a USB-A or USB-C to USB-A adapter. You'll get the Courtcaster itself, which we'll take out of the velour bag in a second here. You will get a little, this is called a SIM card tool. It's essentially just a little pick that'll help you control some of the small switches on the Courtcaster. You'll get a setup or quick guide here. If you want to really understand all the buttons and features of the Courtcaster, this walks you through everything. And you'll get a set of 4 tiny rubber feet. On the Courtcaster, if we open it up here, this is the Courtcaster itself. We're not going to walk through the settings just yet on here because we have a couple extra things to do as far as looking at components. So these are the things you get with the Courtcaster. If you buy the kit, then you will also be getting a headphone of some type. This is the most popular headset. This is the Andrea 1A5VM with the Zoom style output, which is the separate green and pink plugs. You'll also get a extension cable. This is an 1/8 inch extension cable. The part number is SPSC9-12. You will also get a XLR adapter. This is a special 1/8 inch to XLR adapter. It's not just a simple size adaptation. It also has circuitry inside that allows you to use the specific power coming from the Courtcaster for mics like the headset mic here. You'll also get a second USB cable and a second USB-C to USB-A adapter. They may not look exactly like this. You'll also get a USB wall adapter. It may be either USB-A or USB-C depending on which cables you get, but it'll allow you to power the Courtcaster with a USB cable just off your wall rather than a second USB port on your computer. We'll look at that in a little bit. And lastly, you will get a SD card. Usually we sell 32 gig cards. They might be 64 just depending on what's available at the time, but you will get some type of SD card in your kit so that you can start doing recordings inside the Courtcaster. So now we've looked at all the parts of the Courtcaster and the associated kit. Next step is to go over to the computer and we're going to install the drivers from CEntrance for the Courtcaster. All right, so first step in setting up your Courtcaster is you want to download the drivers. The website you want to go to is here, centrance.com/download. There is a link to this download or link to this website in the description below the video. If you scroll down, you'll see first link here is the CEntrance Recording Products, download Windows 10, 11 ASIO driver. You want to click that. You want to put in your email address, so it'll send you a link to download through your email. So just put in whatever email address is and then hit send my driver link. After that, it's going to show up in your downloads here as this file, CEU-DUSB-9.0.6. Depending on when you're doing this, it might have a different end number depending on which version the drivers are on. Once you have that, you can double click and it should open up into the actual install application here. Then you'll double click that and it'll start the install process. So I'm gonna hit next, accept the license agreement, next. It's installing drivers, it opens this README file. You can just close this and then hit finish. So now your drivers are installed and you are ready to connect your Courtcaster. But first we're going to look at the Courtcaster itself and then we'll plug it in and talk about all of that. All right, so now that we've installed the drivers, I want to go over quickly some of the settings on the Courtcaster here. This is going to be sort of a quick setup. If you want a more in-depth guide on what all this stuff does, check out the quick guide that comes with the Courtcaster. It goes over all the buttons and switches and controls and all how they work. So on the top side here, you have some switches and some 6 knobs here. The switches, you basically just want to repeat what I have here. So first one's high pass filter, you want that off. Limiter, you can set that to off. The second channel here, you have a limiter. We don't use the second channel at all, so you can just leave that limiter off. The fourth setting here is for the phone jack. We don't use that, so you can just leave that to the right position. The first knob here, gain 1, that is your microphone volume. So you can just set that to the middle for now. When you plug in your mic, you're going to want to set your microphone volume, which means just speaking at a noble tone of voice. and then talk a little bit louder, and you should just about see that peak light, which will be red, PK. When you start talking, you should just see that light up when you're talking your loudest. The second input we don't need, and so the gain 2 knob, which corresponds to that, we're going to leave all the way down. A knob right here called mono stereo, you want to set that all the way to the mono mode. That way you're hearing the same thing out of both ears. Aux 3 and 4, we don't use that input. Input/USB, we're going to skip that for a second. Monitor knob here, this is your listening volume, so you can turn this up or down depending on how loud you want stuff to be. You can start about 9 o'clock, that's a good baseline setting that's not going to be too loud at first. The input USB is what you hear out of the headphone jack. Pushed all the way to the left is more the input, which means your microphone. So pushed all the way to the left, you're going to hear only your own voice. If you turn this knob all the way to the right, you're going to hear only the audio coming from the computer, so the Zoom conference or remote conference. And so a setting of about 3 o'clock is going to be mostly the Zoom people, but a little bit of your voice, which usually works well. On the top side here, we have the XLR inputs. We're only going to use the one for our headset mic, so the second one we don't use that, and the little phone jack here is a separate thing which we don't use as well. On the other side here, we have a bunch of our controls for the recorder, some inputs and outputs, and some more switches, as well as the USB jacks. Starting on the bottom, the 48V switch, that is power for the microphone, so that has to be set to on. The monitor mono stereo switch, you want that to stereo, so you hear out of both ears. The lower high is volume for the aux input, which you don't use, so you can ignore that. Center 3 jacks here. We have aux input, aux output, and headphones. We don't use either the aux ins or outs, but we do use the headphone jack. That's where you plug in your headphones. USB jacks here, you do have to use both USB jacks. So the one on the left here is for data transfer between the computer and the Courtcaster, and the one on the right is for power for the Courtcaster. And I'll show you what you have to hook those up. And on the top are the transport controls for the built-in recorder. So once you have the SD card plugged in, ready to go, you just hit the red button here to start the recording, and it immediately starts recording. When you're done recording, you can hit the play or stop button. That's a triangle or square. Hit that, and that stops the recording. If you wanted to listen back, you could also hit that button again. It would play through the headphone jack, and you can scroll through it with the reverse or fast forward buttons. Generally, you won't use that. You'll just move the file to the computer. So that's the setup for the Courtcaster. Like I said, if you want to know more in depth what those things do, check out the quick guide. As far as hooking up the equipment with the kit, with the equipment that comes with the kit, so you're going to get first off your headset. Headset should have 2 plugs on it, headphone and microphone. We're going to install the XLR adapter here. This is the Boya adapter. This is going to plug into the input 1 jack, which is on the left if you're facing the Courtcaster like this. Only goes in one way. Just line up the pins and push it in until it seats fully. Pink jack from the headset is the headset microphone, so that's going to go into the end of the Boya adapter, like so. And then you're going to need your 1/8 inch extension cable. This cable is going to go on to the end of the green plug from the headset. Make sure it fully snaps into place. Take the end of that extension cable, and then you're going to plug it into the phone's jack on the bottom of the Courtcaster. Again, make sure it seats fully. On the headset, you have a little control on the wire here for the headset. The slider is volume control. You want to push that all the way up to the widest part of the graphic. And then on the side is a mute control for your microphone, and you want to set that to on for now so that the microphone's turned on. If you want to mute your mic, you can switch it to the mute position, but leave it on for now. Now, as far as USB cables, like I said, you do get 2 USB cables in the box, as well as 2 USB-A to USB-C adapters. So depending on your computer, you may have USB-C ports on your computer, you may have USB-A. USB-A is the rectangular plug, like so. USB-C is the slimmer oval. So depending on what your computer has, you want to use either the cable by itself or the appropriate adapter so that you can plug the cables into the computer. The Courtcaster has USB-C ports, so one side of one of your USB cables will go into that USB connection, and then the other USB cable will connect to the power side of the Courtcaster. In this case, my computer has a USB-C port here and a USB-A port here. So I'll plug in the USB-C cable without an adapter because it's USB-C natively. I'll plug that in like so. And then I'll take the USB cable for power with the USB-C adapter on it, and I'll plug that in to the USB-A port on the computer. And maybe you saw that the lights lit up briefly. You'll also see a small light down here on the bottom of the Courtcaster that indicates that the device is turned on. And then, like I said, with the headset mic working, you can see I'm talking into the headset mic now, and you can see that signal light is lighting up. If I turn up the gain, if I turn up that gain and talk, eventually you'll see that peak light lighting up. That peak light is going to be distortion, so you don't want to see that. So you want to bring it down until you don't see that peak light light up, except when you talk the loudest. Loud, 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 loud. Loud, loud, loud. So about right there is good for me. All right, so now we got the Courtcaster all wired up. Let's go back to the computer and we'll look at doing the settings on the computer and how that needs to be set up to start recording with the Courtcaster. All right, so we got the Courtcaster now plugged into the computer. Power light is on. We are ready to check some settings. So you can just hit your Windows key, start typing settings. Settings window will pop up here. You want to click sound. And then over here to the output, you want to make sure the line CEntrance Courtcaster is selected. If yours doesn't say line, doesn't say CEntrance Courtcaster, says something unsimilar, different names, your drivers probably didn't install correctly, in which case you can uninstall and reinstall from the website. Or make a phone appointment with us or text into our number and we'll help you out with that. You want to make sure the volume is turned all the way up and mono audio is off. And then scroll down to the input. Again, you want to make sure the line CEntrance Courtcaster device is selected and the volume is turned all the way up. So now we're going to jump into a Zoom meeting. So I'll just open a new meeting here. And yes, you are going to join with computer audio, so you can check that. And then you're going to come down here to the little button in your mute on Zoom. Open that up, and same thing, you want to make sure that the line CEntrance Courtcaster is selected for both microphone and speaker down here. Make sure they're both checked. And then we can open up audio settings and you can test your devices here. So if you hit test speaker, you should be able to hear the audio come through the headphones. If you hit test microphone, you should be able to talk a little bit and then it'll play back your voice to you in your headphones. If you don't hear the output or you don't hear yourself speaking, then something's going wrong in the setup, either back up in the video or, contact us and we'll help you from there. The last setting you want to check is in your specific CAT software. You want to make sure that, again, the line CEntrance device is selected for the audio input. Depending on what CAT software you're using, that setting's going to be in different places. For CaseCat, it's going to be in your translate options on the real-time tab. Your input device will be this one here, line CEntrance Courtcaster, that's what it'll say. For Eclipse, you'll want to go into your user settings on the real-time tab and make sure in your audio recording, you have an audio channel set up to the line CEntrance device here. For playback, same thing. If you go to edit audio playback, the line can be selected as your device and then it'll play out of your headphones when you play back sound from the file. For the other CAT softwares like StenoCat, ProCat, you should have somewhere in your audio settings where you can define a device, or often for those programs, it'll just hook up automatically to whatever is selected for Windows, so you should be good to go. So once you have those settings set for the Windows settings for Zoom, input and output devices, and for your CAT software, you are ready to start taking a Zoom job. For the internal recording on the Courtcaster, your files will show up in a drive on the computer here. So somewhere down here on your computer and your drives, you'll see another drive for the Courtcaster, and there'll be a file folder in there that'll have the audio files for the recording you made while you're doing your Zoom job, and you can take that audio and do what you need to do with it. All right, so that was the setup guide for the CEntrance Courtcaster. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us. You can text us at 609-491-2844, or feel free to make a phone appointment. That's calendly.com/soundpro. Links to all that stuff will be in the description. I'm Joe from Sound Professionals. Thanks for watching.